Now, this is astonishing and worrying. Australians are more concerned about Donald Trump's tariffs than the rising Chinese military threat. This is according to a recent news poll. This is, I think, partly due, Kosha, to the quality of reporting we see on US politics. And we have a lot of viewers in the US. If they're wondering what the US coverage is like, it's mixture of MSNBC and Guardian and maybe inject a little bit of PBS into it. That's pretty much the diet that Australians get when it comes to US politics.
Yes, and tariffs was just made out to be this big, bad bogeyman. Article after article after article after broadcast was heralding it as the complete destruction and this thing that's never going to work, and Trump is too stupid to understand economics and all of that. So clearly, even though mainstream media is declining, as we know, it is still powerful. It does shape opinions. And I think in Australia, especially, mainstream media is a bigger part of the media diet of people as opposed to independents.
I think Australians aren't as aware as Americans to just how corrupted so many institutions have become with political ideology. So I think they are a bit more trusting. And it's not just the coverage we had on the tariffs, it's the coverage we've had on Donald Trump from, well, last 10 years almost. It's just been relentlessly negative in this country. So it's not surprising that there's some negative opinions.
Absolutely. And it is an opportunity, I think, for the right side of the political aisle here to really try and reframe media as what they are and an untrustworthy institution. They haven't quite done that as ferociously as Trump and team have.
Yeah, we're a little bit behind the game in that one. Now, the IPA has released research showing Australians have passed peak woke, with the majority of Generation Z now rejecting divisive identity politics. Daily Mail's also reporting that the IPA research was backed up by a survey which showed those aged 18 to 24 were increasingly rejecting woke ideas, in contrast to the age group directly above them. That is a surprise, because you do think, particularly when it comes to young women, that they are dangerously woke, but it seems perhaps the
tide is turning.
Turned.
It is encouraging, if true. It reminds me of a couple of other stats that have come out in recent weeks. One was out of the UK, that same age group is more has a stronger belief in God, and they're returning to religion, which is very interesting. And then in the US, the biggest measure is what happened in the election. And that crowd, again, yes, more the young men versus the women, but that 18 to 24 crowd overall completely turned, like 33 points or something between 10 years ago versus now, with how they voted and voting for the Republican Party and for Trump in particular. So those little signs might be, as they say, the kids are all right. And if the future of civilization depends on them, maybe, just maybe, we have a chance.
It is going to be interesting to see the societal impact of this deep, deep divide between young men and young women. Now, that may change, the trends may change, but right now we're seeing young men in the West increasingly go right-wing, whilst the women are going the other way, or remaining at the very least fairly left. How is that going to play out? How are these people going to live together and have children and have families if their values are not aligned?
That is such an interesting observation. That, and then you throw into the mix cost of living and housing affordability, and all that is so difficult as well. So all of that hurts the ability for young people to meet and get married and have kids, and all of that forms the basis of a stable middle class and a stable society. On the flip side, hopefully as they age and mature, that gap closes, or we might just see more silos and specialization, and maybe dating apps that go by political leanings or worldview will be on the rise potentially.
Now, this is fantastic news for the Trump administration, and particularly for any sort of future J.D. Vance administration. Elon Musk, the world's richest man, no longer wants to start a third party if J.D. Vance is the Republican candidate. This is a exclusive from the Wall Street Journal, Kosha. This is a big deal because whatever you think of Elon Musk, he does wield significant power, certainly significant money. And if he did have a third party, it would definitely be harming the Republicans more than the Democrats. It would splinter that vote. So this really does shore up J.D. Vance even more. I mean, he is the front runner anyway to be the next candidate.
As of now, and as they say, a week is a lifetime in politics, and the bench is strong. Marco Rubio, all sorts of other people, but for now he is the favorite for sure. He's proving himself to be very loyal, not only to Trump, but more importantly to the MAGA, the populist right agenda.
The base loves him.
And
Absolutely.
he has it all. So you're right that in the U.S. system, third parties never win, but they can be spoilers, and it's happened with Ross Perot and others, and he certainly has the money to do it and be that spoiler, at least be an influencer. And I don't know how many people took him seriously necessarily when he was toying with the idea of a third party, but the fact that he's coming out and saying this is good news for the two-party system that the U.S. does live in, and hopefully it stays that way.
And JD Vance is the perfect politician. I mean, you just look at his history, his achievements, his family, the whole package, his intellect, and the way he loves the fight, loves the debate. He's so good at it. He's
so young, understands everything. He's relatable. So he really has a lot of tools.
Yeah, it's hard to see him being replaced. It is a long time away. Now, the Texas Democrats plan to spend the night in the state capitol to continue their protest about redistricting. Kosha, explain to the audience what this redistricting means. It's something that Democrats are typically very good at, but the Republicans want to do it in Texas and other places and make that vote more representative. Explain how this works.
So it basically comes down to what they call gerrymandering and where you draw the district lines, which is what will determine where the representatives in the House and the lower chamber come from. And they redraw it historically. The Democrats are better at it, as you say, in a way that populations that have more of an affinity to vote for Dems versus Republicans will fall in such a way that you get more seats. So it's sort of like doing funny business.
So you've got states where the Republicans may get 40% of the votes, but instead of having 40% of the representatives, they might have 10%.
10%, absolutely.
And that's what they're trying to address. Because
That's right.
Texas, again, it advantages the Democrats, even though it's a red state.
And they never play dirty to that point. And I think this is all a symptom of, Greg Abbott, who isn't exactly a fire breather, the governor of Texas, is taking this fight to the legislature because they have the majority in the state legislature that does that. You are seeing it spill out. You're seeing the other side. California and Gavin Newsom are trying to now do a retaliatory thing in the other direction. But this is all about the 2026 midterms, which has huge implications because there's a razor-thin margin for Republicans. And if they lose that, bet on it, Trump will face another impeachment.
Oh, that's all they know how to do. I mean, that will be fascinating to see if that happens, what they will conjure up to impeach him over, but
for the third time.
It will happen. Now, before you go, we talked about the end of the woke era, and this may be another sign of it. ESPN, which is very woke, has canned Spike Lee's Colin Kaepernick docuseries. Walt Disney-owned ESPN is known for these sort of left-wing projects, but they have canned this one, and we don't exactly know why, Kosha, but people have their suspicions.
Another interesting signal. I mean, Colin Kaepernick is so 2016, as the kids say, and his whole bending the knee kind of came and went. And to put out a documentary that probably would have centered around that and his activism just feels
the whole BLM era.
Too much in the past. Like, so much has changed in the world, in the country, and audience appetite. So encouraging and interesting that the ESPN, which is not a particularly centrist or right-leaning organization, is doing that. I don't think we're out of the woods because you've got Netflix putting out a documentary on Jussie Smollett. Remember him coming out with some story about how he actually wasn't perpetrating a hoax.
And he wasn't, was he?
He's doing a whole documentary that Netflix is putting out. So we're still not out of the woods, but this is promising by ESPN.
Yes. Kosha Gada, thank you so much for your time.
Always a pleasure.